begin today's show in South Africa, where the finance minister is in big trouble. Pravin Gordhan's being investigated by an elite police unit for allegedly using the country's tax service to spy on politicians. Now, Gordhan says he's done nothing wrong and won't obey a police summons. But Gordhan's no ally of the president, Jacob Zuma, and says it's all politically motivated. ANDRE-PIERRE du Plessis reports.
South Africa's currency strengthened on Tuesday after the main opposition party gained control of Johannesburg, the country's economic hub. But by Wednesday, the rand had weakened considerably after Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan said he'd been summoned to the offices of a special police unit closely linked to President Jacob Zuma. The summons relates to an investigation into whether Gordhan used state funds to spy on politicians when he ran the country's tax agency. The investigation was put aside earlier this year as the ruling party focused on campaigning ahead of local elections in early August. But after the ANC suffered its worst defeat in over 20 years, Zuma is in danger of losing power inside the party. Possible criminal charges against the finance minister are seen as part of Zuma's battle to maintain control.
I have a job to do in a difficult economic environment and serve South Africa as best I can. Let me do my job. Thank you.
The phrase, "let me do my job," has now become a Twitter hashtag used by South Africans and prominent business leaders speaking out against the political pressure the country's finance minister faces. Political activists protested outside the police offices where Gordhan was summoned to on Thursday. Adding to their pleas to put the witch hunt aside was Nelson Mandela's former defense lawyer.
We are concerned about the future of justice and law in South Africa.
In a statement on Thursday, President Zuma expressed his full support and confidence in the Minister of Finance and emphasized that Gordhan had not been found guilty of any wrongdoing. But he also said he does not have the powers to stop any investigation into any individual. Zuma is set to step down as party leader next year and as president in 2019. He now appears to be looking after his own economic interests and those of his allies, which include another possible bailout for the state-owned carrier South African Airways. But Gordhan has suggested that taxpayers' money won't be used to keep unprofitable public companies afloat, something that will now possibly cost him his job, South Africa's credit rating, and damage to its currency. ANDRE-PIERRE du Plessis, TRT World.
Well, joining me now from Johannesburg is Phillip de Wet. He's the associate editor of the South African newspaper Mail and Guardian. Phillip, thank you very much for joining us on Money Talks. We heard there Pravin Gordhan saying, "Let me do my job." Who do you think he was really addressing when he said that?
Well, the simple and simplistic narrative is that this is a war between President Jacob Zuma and Pravin Gordhan. Pravin Gordhan being the lone defender of the treasury and parastatal companies, and Jacob Zuma trying to open the way for the looting of those parastatal companies. Of course, it's not that simple. Nothing in politics is ever that simple. But Pravin Gordhan does seem to be talking to the president and perhaps to the African National Congress, where he does not seem to have a great deal of political support.
Right, you were talking about those state-owned or state-run enterprises. They now fall under the supervisory remit of the president. Formerly, Pravin Gordhan and the Treasury would have had some input there. Why do you think that the president has made this move?
A lot of the major parastatal companies are in serious difficulty. The national carrier, the national airline, is in great difficulty. The state-run electricity company has been running into some troubles. Our passenger rail agency is in deep trouble indeed. And these have increasingly come under the ambit of the finance ministry, and therefore Pravin Gordhan recently, because of those troubles, because they've been so poorly run, because their boards and their chief executives seem to have been unable to run them properly. Now, as of this week, of course, the president has almost taken over personal management of all of those organizations. And well, this is the question, of course. They are in trouble and they are being poorly run, so that is an excuse, perhaps. But there are very many people, including some high-powered civil society voices, who say This is in order to loot further the coffers of those organizations.
Do you think that outside analysts and investors are right to be worried about the developments in South Africa?
They certainly are. This does seem to speak to the heart of our law enforcement capability. This does seem to be organs of state battling it out in a very public space. So regardless of what lies beneath it, the very fact that we have those kinds of battles at this level of government is deeply worrying.
Okay, Phillip de Wet in Johannesburg, thank you very much for your analysis.